Thank you very much, members. Yes, I do, and it's a pity there are not that many people left because I do have a bit of a longer report today. Firstly, it occurs to me, of course, that 2 days or a day ago marked my full first year as CEO of this authority. Normally, in a situation like this, people would like to talk about the accomplishments and the milestones that they delivered during the time. However, you know that when the board made the decision to hire me a year ago, that they did not hire a spin doctor, they didn't hire a politician, they didn't hire a salesman, they hired an engineer and a manager, a person who's built these kind of turnkey systems around the world. And so, although we, I believe, have been successful in certain parts of our business during the year, we have also made some improvements to the associated organizations, engineering organizations, and so on. We have had many shortcomings as well, and I maybe wanted to reflect on some of them. Firstly, the shortcomings related to staffing issues. I believe the most important thing a manager must do is to hire qualified people and assemble the right core team around them to make an organization work. While we have seen some improvements, you know that there have not been many. Nearly 2 years ago, the board commissioned an organizational assessment, and that assessment concluded many things that I really agree with, and unfortunately, you know that they were not possible to implement. Oversight to ensure taxpayers' money is correctly spent, engineering oversight, risk management, outreach, and financial control functions. Now, as of very recently, however, things have begun to move. The Governor's Office has shown leadership in assisting us to be able to hire critical people. And just last week, I announced my number 20th member in the state team, Chris Ryan, who was around. I'm not sure if he's still here as my Chief of Staff. There he is. I'm glad to have him on board. And in front here this morning is Tim Baresh, who's been appointed as the Southern Californian Regional Director, and that only yesterday. So things are moving, and I'm happy to announce that. On the other hand, we have to move through the, call it, bureaucracy of the state to make these things happen. Regarding something that has been heard, you heard a lot of today, communications and outreach, I have to make a few statements. I do not believe that nothing has been done during the last year, but we do also understand that not sufficient has been done. This is a huge task, and there's a lot to be still to be done. In many cases, we reach out often to communicate with certain communities. And some communities praise our efforts, while the communities that are just adjacent to them, being supported by the same teams, by the same people, in fact, are often very dissatisfied. But I think that's just the nature of the business we're in. This may, of course, be because while we reach out to certain people, we unfortunately do not tell the community members exactly what they want to hear. In fact, communications and outreach are not the equivalent of agreement and consensus, which is a lot more difficult. But then again, I must admit, although in many cases we reach out often, we do not communicate that clearly, and we know many instances where stakeholders and elected officials have not known the complete story, and we obviously have not done our job well enough. The topic is complex and not easy to comprehend for many people, and we recognize that. So often the authority is accused of failing to reach out properly regarding major decisions. However, I can tell you we will continue to do so, to reach out and to improve our outreach efforts. On the issue of ridership and forecasts, because this topic is so widely discussed by the naysayers and therefore by the press and by everybody, members of the legislature, I've obviously been wrestling with this topic throughout my 12 months here. Let me tell you where I stand. We have used, as many of you know, the ridership forecasts and studies thus far to develop the CEQA and NEPA environmental review process. In fact, I believe that work has been very solid, and I found no fault in that work. And in fact, you know too, that when you do that, when you do a CEQA NEPA environmental study, you are looking for the greatest or worst impacts, not for the least impacts. You're trying to minimize impacts, but you're trying to see what the impacts are going to be on the environment. On the other hand, derivatives of these figures have been used for business plans in the past, and quite clearly, when these business plans were discussed, this is where people started getting less satisfied with the figures. It is normal in the early progression of these types of rail projects or transportation projects that a business case is built on such early value predictions, and optimization of the models take place as time goes on. As we had not sought funding from the private sector until today, and it's not yet the time to do so, because we are not close enough to starting up an operation, we obviously used the figures that we had and did not refine the ridership studies to become investment-grade ridership studies. This work is now ongoing under the guidance of a well-respected international team of independent experts, the ridership peer review group, as we refer to them. And inputs from the latest studies will be incorporated into our business plans, which are due to the legislature, due to be published in October of this year. Some argue that we ought to halt the work while we wait for this to be done to get to an investment-grade ridership forecast. Unfortunately, I must say that is surely false. This is not the way it's done anywhere in the world, and ridership forecasts are just what they are, what they called forecasts. They're based on numbers and calculations and modeling, and for exactly that reason they often are criticized by opponents. But what I do believe we need to ensure is that we develop these processes as we move on. The main reason I feel very comfortable with the system, I've said it on many occasions, with our system in California, there are two main reasons. One, and you heard it to some extent from our Spanish colleagues today. Yes, a Californian high-speed rail system connecting Los Angeles and San Francisco will certainly make money. Every single high-speed rail system in the world operates in black. That means it generates cash when it comes to fare box income covering the cost of operations. Every single one, and that's not according to myself, the authority, or it is according to the International Union of Railways, the UIC, or UNIFE as well, who are the coordinators of these type of informations worldwide. What's more, the population densities in California are far greater than those in successful systems in other parts of the world, meaning that we have a great future to look forward to. The second reason we should be looking and continuing with our work is from a public policy point of view. The state ought not to consider only whether a dollar spent is equal to or greater than a dollar earned. From a public policy point of view, we can and should consider other tremendous benefits that high-speed rail bring and will bring, such as long-term economic strength, such as near-term job creation, environmental benefits, reduced accidents, improved air quality, reduced impacts on agriculture, and such like. You heard quite a few such statements today. We will be working to prepare our business plan, which will incorporate all such issues when we deliver it in October. On the issue of challenges ahead for the high-speed rail project, there have been a lot of voices outlining the challenges, the deficiencies, because pointing out difficulties is a fairly easy thing to do. Overcoming them is the real test. I believe we all agree that some of the real major challenges that we have on high-speed rail is, number one, funding. We know that. I've never hidden from that. And secondly, of course, choosing the correct business model and the correct investment to also attract private investment. On the funding, we know, and we're working with the FRA and DOT to get a better commitment from them, because we do have Prop 1A monies, and we now need a stronger commitment from the central government. With $9 billion here in California and already $3.9 billion committed by the central or federal government, I think we have a good start to the project. As far as the future, I think we have achieved some things during this year, but clearly we have a lot still to do. I still believe, as I move through the state and meet many people, there are many, many more people in our state, and many people also in the legislature and stakeholders in various regions throughout the state that understand these real challenges and have started to understand the real challenges that lie ahead to make this a reality. And I do hope that with this common understanding of the challenges, we can unite together to overcome the challenges and to make sure that we can make this project come to fruition. Because, of course, this is the California way. Each one of you in particular, if I look at these board members, has been in California for many more years than I have. Although I can boast 7 years as a Californian myself, and by the way, I've paid taxes in California for 13 years. Even when I was out of the state, I was paying Californian taxes. And therefore, I can say I have all my children based here too, so they are other taxpayers and so on. So we can call this home as well. But even in my relatively short time compared to you here in California, I've come to realize in the Californian spirit, which is greater, which is bolder, which is more visionary than anywhere else I've been in the world, that we can make this happen. Unfortunately, I'm going to go to a few more little detailed things because I'd owe it to you as the board and the public to tell you about a few more detailed things. I have mentioned to you Chris Ryan and Tim Buresh that we brought on. For the public as well, we are searching at the moment for more people. So if you know some real good people, we're looking for Chief Program Director, Chief Counsel, Chief Financial Officer, Regional Director, External Affairs. I'd like to make a comment on the LAO report because it would be wrong at the board not to make a comment about the LAO's report. On receipt of the LAO's report, there was much press, which was obviously viewed to be negative press because the press often repeats what's in reports. As the LAO had portrayed the authority as being relatively incompetent and that its major decisions, such as the selection of the initial construction section, as being politically motivated and incorrect, and that the structure of its board is incorrect and within this phase of the project. The LAO recommended that the authority be placed within Caltrans, and that the FRA be approached to renegotiate the terms of the funding agreements, so as to allow the spending of federal dollars first and to allow for the delay of the use of the ARIF dollars. The DOT or FRA, as you know, were here on May the 16th and 17th in our offices, and they also sent us a letter on May the 25th in which they rejected the possibility to be able or willing to renegotiate the terms of the funding agreements. Furthermore, the DOT continued to confirm their decision or our decision, as well as the decision that had been made with respect to the initial construction section being in the Central Valley, and that being correct. It is our understanding that many legislators, however, continue to work, and we've just discussed that earlier on alternative new ways of governance, such as SB 517 and AB 145. As far as the budget is concerned, I wanted to show you our budget slide, and these will all be up on the internet for everybody to see. This is a summary of the budget that we have been negotiating. Now, you know, too, that the budget is not yet finalized, but we had hearings both in the Senate and the Assembly, and this is a summary of those budget discussions. Firstly, I'll get to the figures in a minute. Both the Senate and the Assembly did not follow the recommendations of the LAO, namely to reduce the budget of the authority to $7 million for a period of 3 to 4 months, during which period the legislators were to give guidance on some new selection criteria for the determination of the initial construction section. So they did not follow that, and in fact, both houses approved some budget which is very close to each other, and I just want to point out to you what the differences are. So in fact, you can see the upper portion, the capital outlay budget of 133 million. On the right, you'll see a little 1, and that's just a comment to it. The comments are on the right-hand side. We will have approximately a 47 million carryover from this particular 10-11 year to 11-12. So therefore, our ask for 180 million was reduced by the 47 million, which makes sense, and that means we get in the new budget 133 million. The differences between the Senate and the Assembly was that the Senate requested that of the 133 million, 50% be held back until such time as we submit the funding plan and the business plan on October the 14th, 2011. So obviously the two houses have to get together and find the final bill language or the final language, but that was the difference on that particular line item. A comment with respect to the support budget. The Senate approved, that's point 2, that is public information and communications. The Senate approved the full amount of 2.3 million, while the Assembly reduced this figure to 1.23 million and advised the state or the authority to hire some more own employees, which of course can't happen this year. They would only be able to hire them next year because you've got to go through a budget process to get more people on board. On the other hand, again, this will have to go to committee for a final resolution. To comment number 3, the Senate approved 1.25 million for our work together with Caltrans. On the other hand, they did put a note in and said that can be increased by 1 million if need arises, so it could be 2.25. The Assembly did not necessarily put that rider in. The fourth point here, the administration had not requested funding for our joint efforts on the Peninsula Corridor, as this is the only corridor in the state that requires additional funding. That means funding in addition to the regional consultants that work on the corridor in any case. However, both the Senate as well as the Assembly reintroduced $1.1 million in funding for this, and they seem to be in unity that they would like that to go through. On the staffing side, number 5, due to the fact that we have not been able to hire staff up to now, and we still have staff to hire in this particular year, which we are busy hiring, our initial request for 29 additional PUIs, as they call them, or heads or staff, was reduced to 15 for the next year. I believe, we can suffice with that. We will go up to a headcount of about 55 people in the authority during the next year. Further comment, you will see in the upper portion, capital outlay, there are 3 zeros on the previous slide. And that is that the phase 2 alignments, we received no funding for phase 2 alignment environmental work and planning to continue. So that means we are preparing a stand-down plans for the phase 2 sections or alignments. On the other hand, as I mentioned earlier on, the budgets are not finalized, and it is still possible that these items could get or be revisited. The amounts that were in there previously for previous years were smaller amounts doing advance environmental work. On the issue, and now the next slides, please. On the issue of phased implementation, the last board meeting, staff requested from the board the approval to investigate the feasibility of phased implementation on the peninsula. However, just before that, Congress member Eshu, Assembly member Gordon, and Senator Smithian had issued a joint statement on April the 18th, which requested the authority to implement a thing called a blended system, and we refer to ours as a phased implementation system. So if you just keep those two terminologies slightly apart. And the blended system explicitly rejects any elevated structures or viaducts from San Jose to San Francisco. It requires that we remain within the existing Caltrain right-of-way, and it's based on a short-term EIR rather than a long-term 25-year time frame standard, which is standard for transportation and CEQA projects normally. Just a few more slides. You can see these were the slides, just carry on, that we presented to you last time. I don't want to repeat them, just that you recall what we spoke about. But I wanted to get to this particular slide here, which is more or less where we are today. We have had some good discussions with some of the people concerned, some public meetings, but also some meetings to understand really clarifications, definitions and clarifications between blended system and phased implementation. And I would like to inform the board just of the status of these further investigations. One of the main meetings where Member Hartnett and myself met with Senator Smithian and Assembly Member Gordon, and some of these things have developed. And I think it's really good that there's a better understanding of what was, in a very short document of theirs at the time. And I'd like to just mention them from the top down. The first request was the alignment from San Jose to San Francisco should remain within the existing Caltrain right away. And presently, there's been an agreement that as long as we stay substantially without the existing Caltrain right away, which for an engineer like myself is a big word. It means something a little bit different to the one on the left. And that's within San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Another request that was there before was reject the notion of high-speed rail running from San Jose to San Francisco on an elevated structure. There is now a better understanding is that reject elevated structures unless the cities accept the solution or the solution is required for the operation of the system. Because there are some parts in the peninsula where we need to have such solutions, and in fact there are areas on the peninsula where the cities are quite happy with the solutions that were proposed. So I think we're moving forward on these type of things. Abandon the EIR for the 25-year time frame. And this condition of course, dependent on Prop 1A as well as on the capacity of this corridor. And we have asked, respectively, for the first point, the AG some questions, and I've been given some indication, the AG's office, sorry, that we will get some comments on Prop 1A definitions maybe within the next 10 to 14 days. And the second one, you heard one of the speakers today talk about, and that was the Caltrain, the infrastructure capacity. This is an issue that's being done by Caltrain at the moment and may well take still some weeks to conclude what the capacity is of the present existing system, even if electrified and with the signaling. But we need those inputs before we can make any further decisions on this corridor. And then the latter point on the chart is the unnecessary duplication of existing usable infrastructure, a second rail system, as was quoted in the document that was issued on the peninsula and the South Bay. There has also been some clarity on that this does not preclude the construction of the four-track system where it's deemed necessary. So there were some talks after the paper was published that this would mean that no additional track would be allowed or no expansion of the system would be allowed, which of course would be a stalemate. But in discussions, it is now clearer that was not the meaning of what they wanted to communicate. So we continue to work on this issue. On the other hand, we have reduced the rail engineering effort on the peninsula and environmental effort because it makes no sense to spend too much money doing that. We have a smaller core team working on that at the moment, and we have a request from the legislators that in the August time frame we should be talking about this with solutions with them again. So I wanted to update you on that particular development. On the next item, unfortunately, I know it's lunchtime. I've still kept a few people here because these things are quite interesting and important. I needed to discuss with you, following the very successful RFEI forum and question session that we had earlier on in the year, we gathered further information from bidders. And we had a good session in Southern California. We are now preparing ourselves for the request for qualification, RFQ, and for the RFP, request for proposal, for this initial construction section. We have analyzed this initial section, that means the section from the Y north of Fresno down to Bakersfield, and have divided this section into packages, which we believe would make the best sense for us to obtain the best results from the market At the same time would meet the needs of the suppliers who have sent us inputs. At the same time, this includes clustering of similar structural requirements to ensure benefiting quantity of scale in structure design as well as in structure pre-manufacturing. So we have incorporated, of course, the $300 million additional funding that we received from the FRA in the last round from Florida. So that's $375 million in total, so as to bring our total funding up to close to $5.9 billion. So this is the alignment here. Obviously, the final selection of the alignment will be based on the LETPA, and I think the board knows what the LETPA is, but the LETPA is the least environmentally damaging practicable alternative, which is still to be determined and by the outcome of the environmental process. But this is an indication of what we think are fair and reasonable and good packages, which we want to go, not yet, but in the time frame of around about July, to the market with. You know that we will be going out for design-build contracts, and the combination of the choices of these procurement packages and design-build contracts will ensure that the authority minimizes its risk, being the risks associated with the interface between contractors and designers and contractual risks. Furthermore, this will ensure the most competitive bidding prices. It will furthermore reduce the demand on the authority to manage too many individual procurement packages. So referring to the slide, you will see I have mentioned 4 procurement packages and cuts on the map itself. We believe that there will be, going through the city of Fresno, from north of Fresno to just south of Fresno, one package that would most likely be in the range of over $1.5 billion. We believe there would be about 3 packages, package 2 to 4, that would be somewhere between $0.5 and $1 billion in size. We believe the sizes are significantly different, and for that reason, when we go on an RFQ, we would most likely go in parallel, but on 2 RFQs, one to select those type of organizations that can take on the very big package, and in parallel, for organizations that can take on smaller packages. It was also a request that we did receive through the RFEI questioning phase. In addition to that, there will be a 5th package, which we refer to as track work, which is a horizontal package, which will then finally be a track work supplier that will install the track work on the complete alignment. It makes most sense that way. You need special equipment, you need special skills and technologies for that. We will also have various smaller procurement packages, but the bulk of the work will be contained in these 5 procurement packages that I've mentioned above. Just a quick statement on the grapevine. The I-5 conceptual study is moving forward. Team continues to meet with stakeholders, elected officials, cities, real estate developers to determine whether and how the alignment can be made feasible. Next week on June the 6th, Board Member Richards and I and some of our team will meet with the Tajon Ranch leadership to discuss with them their plans. And our outreach efforts have continued. You may or may not be aware that Senator Fuller had indicated to us that she was not very happy with our outreach efforts in the area. On the other hand, just recently at the budget meeting, she made a very clear comment that she has seen a great effort being done in the area of outreach in her area there. It's a pity the Kings County people are not here, and I obviously am not happy and will continue to reach out to Kings County. But just that the board knows, between March 2007, March 2011, High-Speed Rail has met with Kings County and the City of Hanford and government officials, and collectively about 50 times. There are lists of this, and we have made those lists available. High-Speed Rail has also met with many other Kings County individuals and groups who have expressed interest to meet during that time. Kings County Board of Supervisors have sent us a few letters, May the 6th and May the 18th, and they've requested something that they refer to as coordination according to the Federal Land Policy Management Act and the highways provision in Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act. The authority does not agree that that legal basis applies to our particular project, although it is very similar to what we are doing in any case in our outreach efforts for CEQA and NEPA, and there's no question in our mind we will intensify and continue to reach out to Kings County and in particular the agricultural community in Kings County. I do want you to be aware that, and you'd heard it today from one of the public speakers, that Kings County had requested a copy of the administrative draft EIR-EIS. It is just been policy and it remains policy and it's on legal advice. We do not distribute copies of draft EIR-EIS documents until they become available. But what we do is we do discuss these documents with the stakeholders. So on June the 7th, there is a meeting set up with the Kings County Board of Supervisors to discuss this document with them as well. I would like to just quickly, and I'm sorry it takes so long, but I seem to appear every second month now, because last month I had to go and fight for some budget for us. This is just a clarification point. Many people, this is the Y, by the way, this is the Y. On the left is Merced, on the right is Fresno. And this is a bit of a complicated area of our alignment. And many people come to me and say, I like the A1, or I like the A2, or prefer it, or I like the hybrid. And what I wanted to just quickly clear with you, and these drawings will be available to you on the internet, and that is that in fact, when you're doing environmental clearance like this, the environmental clearance has been done and nearly complete for A1 and A2 and the hybrid. But what does that in fact mean? There are combinations of these alignments, which you can say stitching together various sections of these various alignments, that have all therefore been environmentally cleared. And I'm saying this because when our document does come out in some weeks from now, these will all be in the document. And I'll quickly walk through them just so you can understand the thinking, and those of you behind me in particular who are interested in this should just understand that there are variations to all of these. And I'll quickly go through them so you can understand the idea. So the basis of the first is A1, which is the BNSF backbone. The basis of the second is UP Railroad, which is the A2, was referred to as A2. But the basis of the third was what we had referred to as a hybrid. But again, there are very many combinations. In fact, if you see the little boxes underneath, there are actually 13 combinations that can be generated out of this. And obviously, in some months from now, to the board members, we're going to be talking about the selection of the LEPA out of these alternatives. And I'm just jumping to them. I'm not going to talk about them all. You can see the differences here. They're quite easy to understand. This one, for instance, is Avenue 21Y, east of Le Grand, and on the BNSF A1 alignment. That's that alignment. Then there's, of course, another alignment, which is the second one. You can see it's just a block next to it. That's going on the 2021, I think. It's on the other side. Then you've got the Mariposa Way, and you've got exactly the same. Then the second one for the 21 alignment there. So, you've got combinations. Sorry, these are the 24s, the Avenue 24s. This is Le Grand, East Mission Avenue on the BNSF, it's 24. And this is Mariposa Way, BNSF with Avenue 24. And so I'll carry on. The same applies to the UP Railroad, A2. There's the east of Chowchilla, which is that one, which is basically the one that's on the UP Railroad. Then there's this one, which many of you know about too, which would take it past on the west of Chowchilla, but it's all these areas are being environmentally totally cleared. Then there's another, which is this is the west of Chowchilla on the UP Railroad using Avenue 24. That's that one. So all these combinations are possible, as is here this hybrid one, which is that hybrid, and this is the hybrid 2, which is basically that hybrid. And you can see the slight differences between these alignments. And again, I don't want to go through each one of them in detail. You can see this one's got the little Y running along the UP Railroad line at the top there. And this one's got the Y actually coming further to the west. I wanted to bring your attention to this as we get closer to speaking about this in the environmental documents, and those who are interested obviously can look closer at these drawings and understand them a bit better. On the issue of agricultural working group, we have initiated the process. We have directed a letter to all the county agriculture commissioners of Merced, Madeira, Fresno, Tulare, Kings, Kern counties to participate in the Ag Working Group and to nominate technical experts. This letter was sent on May the 9th. A response was requested by May the 23rd. Maybe the time was a bit fast for them. There have been some discussions. We haven't got many answers, but they've asked us because they have a joint meeting on June the 23rd and 24th that many of them will come back after that meeting to us. Obviously, time is of the essence. We continue to make individual contact to these Ag commissioners, farm community leaders, and individual farmers. I've mentioned the visit by the DOT FRA. They did a project review. The Deputy Administrator of the FRA was here, Karen Ray. Roy Keenitz, the Undersecretary of the DOT, was here, as well as Amy Scarton. She's Deputy Assistant Secretary for Transportation Policy of the DOT. And they also met with a delegation of the Governor's Office, as well as the Assembly and some individual senators. We also met with the heads of Caltrans, LAMTA, OCTA, and Caltrain, working on concepts of a more combined effort for the Californian system. On the issue of Small Business Enterprise Program, we are working with the FRA's Office of Civil Rights and the DOT's Office of Small Business Utilization, DGS, and Caltrans to develop procurement strategies that will enhance participation and access to small business communities. We are continuing to conduct briefings with legislators and small business groups to raise awareness about the high-speed rail's RFQ and RFP processes. On the financial services contract, a thorough evaluation process result. You know, this is the second, third time around, but we went out on a new RFQ, and a thorough evaluation process resulted in the contract being awarded, or the contract award being made to KPMG. A protest was filed by Capital Partnership LLC on May the 13th. A detailed statement was filed, and we are going through the process through the Office of Administrative Hearing. They've appointed an administrative hearing officer or judge, and by today the final documentation should all be together. There will apparently not be a hearing. That was the decision of the judge, but there will be a decision from her side as to whether we can place the contract with KPMG or otherwise. Just on general issues, I'm sorry, I'm getting to the end. I thought some of these were important and interesting for you to know. On May the 11th, we had the Senate Select Committee on High-Speed Rail, which was chaired by Senator Lowenthal and attended by many senators. It was an exciting group of people. It was held on the basis, on the topic of the legislative peer review, where Will Kempton as chair and Eric Johnson of the Legislative Analyst Office and I presented. We were generally in agreement with issues of risk and staff and such like, although the meeting had become quite clearly more of an issue related to the LAO's report, which had come out 2 days before that, so we had to talk a lot more about the LAO's report at that hearing. It was requested by yourselves and by others to improve the outreach in Southern California. Just wanted to report back that the LA San Diego team is currently providing 27 community meetings throughout their section, as they had promised them, to follow up on the preliminary AA board decision. The goal of the meetings was to ensure that the public are better informed and updated, and these meetings are fulfilling, as I mentioned, a commitment that we made. LA Anaheim are working hard on their phased implementation approach on the Los Angeles corridor. The team is leading a methodical technical discussions with the operators, because there are many operators there, Metro, OCTA, Metrolink, BNSF, and RCTC, and so we are working well on that one. So on May the 1st, we supplied to the joint report to the legislature regarding the Caltrans ability or not of supplying staff to do right-of-way acquisition work. In fact, the response was that Caltrans does not have capacity or spare capacity in their own organization to do this work, and the recommendation was that the authority continue the way that it had planned to use for its peak requirements, because we have a very high peak requirement, to use the consultant base in the United States, also because the requirements are very local, to use local people to do those services of real estate preparation for the real estate right-of-way acquisition. I participated in quite a few meetings and presentations, like the WTS presentation in San Francisco, where I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Secretary Ray LaHood, and I can only say he is, as he always has been, extremely positive about high-speed rail in California, and continues to support us very strongly. I also participated with some of our members at the Maddie Institute in Fresno. I did not personally know the Maddie Institute, but it was created in honor of the late Senator Ken Maddie. Was created to try and develop a focus on Central Valley issues while serving as a bipartisan political think tank for the Valley. There were Congressman Denham and Congressman Jim Costa were there, presented with me, as well as Assemblywoman Kathleen Galgiani and Julia Berry of the Madeira Farm Bureau, and as well as Professor David Brownstone of UC Berkeley, who made some very good statements about the work that we have been doing. On Monday, May the 16th, I talk on behalf of our chairman. He participated in a very successful Kern County gathering. You heard some thanks by the people from Kern County today and from Bakersfield. And due to my DOT FRA meetings, I was only able to contribute through a shorter video conference statement. On May the 26th, I had a very important but informal meeting with Mr. Jim Young, Chairman and CEO of Union Pacific Railroad, who was visiting California. And I can only say he offered further commitment to work together with the authority to ensure safe and reliable futures for both the freight activities as well as for high-speed rail here in California. On May the 17th, Chair Pringle signed a cooperation agreement with the United Kingdom. I think it is important to note those. We have some partners that have been with us for many years. But an important partner like the United Kingdom is now our 9th country that we have access to and abilities to communicate and interact with. UK does not just have a good experience in technical experience, operational experience in high-speed and intermediate high-speed rail, but it also has good experience in privatization, PPP, private operators, Virgin Rail, and the likes. So I think there's some good examples that we can learn from them, and I'm glad we signed that cooperation agreement. I'd like to again just thank our Spanish colleagues that are here, that have taken the time, effort, and are committed to bring California a high-speed rail system, and I hope that many people will be able to visit the conference tomorrow in San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Very good. You know, it is somewhat interesting to put into your brief comments